Fear doesn't disappear until you face it, and I put that to the test in New York City. Today's episode is about facing fears and finding faith. I share how a trip to New York City pushed me to my breaking point with my PTSD, with the crowds, the heights, and even a Broadway show, and how those moments became steps towards healing. It wasn't without its setbacks, but it did show me the power of resilience, the importance of choosing God fully, and how love is a muscle that we need to train every day. Welcome back to Shit Creek Survivors, where we share stories of resilience and tools for resilience. Let's dive into it. Something that's happened recently in my life. I actually did a post or two about it, but I'm back from New York. I'm back
Yeah, how was
from
that trip?
it was good. As a person with PTSD, the idea of even going to New York can be a little large,
Yeah.
little intimidating. But you know, I'm 10 years out from being injured, so I'm trying to adapt. And I've noticed a lot that with me, not trial by fire, but what's it called when you exposure therapy almost works, right?
Okay.
S-
Well, it's kind of
So
like a trial by fire in a way, and your
it,
exposure
yeah,
strategy is a good way to say it. I like that actually. Yeah.
it's like how like you're saying with the program and like how I'm saying with, let's just say, a crowd. How do
Yeah.
we get better at it without facing it or trying it?
Right.
You
Right.
can do all this planning and coaching and all this kind of stuff, but until the rubber meets the road and you're actually standing in a crowd, and having to implement those things, it doesn't mean much.
Right.
So I found myself in a couple situations where, my wife got a wonderful new job opportunity. She was up in New York. She asked me to jump along. It was actually on
Yeah.
her birthday as well. So I was
Oh,
like, let's
cool. Happy
do
birthday, Kate.
this. Yeah. And I knew super important for her, super important for her. This is like a dream of hers her whole life. She actually dreamt of working in New York City, dreamt of, like being in that area. Although she's based in Atlanta, that's where her headquarters are.
Okay.
And, and so her office is about 2 blocks from Times Square. Our hotel was less than a block away from that. So we were about 2 blocks from Times Square. Anyway, so for me, in order for like self-preservation, I kind of broke it the whole trip down into like segments. So even starting, Kate was already there. So I knew I had to get to the airport. I knew I had to, get on the plane. I knew I had to get to LaGuardia. I knew I had to get into a cab. I knew I had to get to the hotel. I knew that I had to meet up with Kate. And then who knows what's going to happen while we're there on the trip. So what
Right.
I did, so I didn't make it too big on myself, because if I get in the car and I'm driving to the airport and I'm already worried about security, if I'm already worried about how the
Yeah.
gate agent's going to be, or how the flight's going to be screwed up or delayed, or parking's going to be terrible or something like that, I can barely handle it. It turns
That
into me
glass of
being
water is getting really heavy.
yeah.
You're holding
So
that glass of water way too long.
I've got way too much in it. I've got way too much in it. So I did a pretty good job. I'm just like, you know what? Controllables and uncontrollables, I'm going to leave an excessive amount of time early. It takes me about an hour 15 to get to the airport from here. But with Atlanta traffic, that can turn into like 2.5 really quick.
Okay.
And so I got enough time and hit some traffic, but had time, got there, perfect. Boom. Was able to find some parking after a little work. Next check off the box. What's next? It's getting through security. I'm not checking any bags. I just had a carry on and kind of like a chest bag kind of deal. And I'm able to get through security, and then the next step is getting on the train. And I know it sounds weird as I'm saying it, but I really had to break it into these little things. All right, next step is the train. And
But
so you
you
get to
recognize some of this, right? I mean, like even going into it,
yeah,
you're recognizing that you knew you're looking for a little bit of the pitfalls. You're looking for the or the speed bumps, not roadblocks, speed bumps. You're looking for little bumps in the road, and you're planning accordingly for it with your skill set right now. So you're making the best decision you can with the information that you have. You're trying to control the controllables. You're trying not to let and the uncontrollables dissuade you from your goal. And
right.
you're putting one foot in front of the other, and you're working it. And knowing that probably helped you more than you ever realized before, because before you never really addressed it in your head before you did it. You just went out, saw a bunch of people, got overloaded, and said, "F that, I'm out. I can't be around a
Right.
bunch of people right now."
Yeah.
I think there are a lot of us listening could probably associate with that in a lot of ways too. So, but good on you
And the
for
truth,
doing that. Good on you for pushing and
and
making a plan and doing it.
and
But it
it's
didn't turn out
taken a
okay.
while. You know what I mean? It takes a while to like reacclimate to crowds. It takes a
Yeah.
while to kind of come out of the cop mentality where you have to
Right.
watch everybody. You need a solid surface on your back, like that sort of stuff. It takes a
Where are everybody's
while.
hands? Where are everybody's hands?
Right. Like I could get killed at any moment here. Like this isn't safe, but I had to let it go in some places. Anyways, I was able to get
Yeah.
to LaGuardia. I was able to get, to a Uber, order my Uber. I know this sounds simple, but again, these are stressful things along the way. I was able to get in the cab, I'm talking with him. Oh, that was a funny conversation. I'll have to talk
Yeah.
about that. But anyways, I got to Kate and now we're, at the hotel in Times Square. I was able to get there.
And a
So
sense of
that's
relief
actually, yeah, a
and
huge sense of
accomplishment.
release.
That,
Yes.
that one blanket put back over you. You can shake off the cold from outside and
Yeah, and I have to
breathe.
say, I f I feel better when I'm with Kate.
Yeah.
Um, she's been with me through the whole process, so, um,
Yeah.
I don't know, it's just she's my person, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So, I was able to get to her and didn't cause any stress for her or myself or anything like that, which is an accomplishment, you know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
she's nervous as I'm traveling, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
She's, like, she's like, "I hope nothing's going wrong." I know she's worried about me, everything's whatever. But I was able to get there. And, we ended up going straight down to Times Square because when I first got asked the question, what do you want to do? I knew that if I was like, let's just stay here and tomorrow we'll go down there. And this is like 9 o'clock at night. Instead of doing that, I was like, fuck it. Let's just go now. Let's go right now. Like, let's just rip the band-aid off. And so
Yeah.
I just we just went. And then, for a while, she tried to control kind of like, are you okay? Blah, 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 blah. And after a while, I had to say, let me handle it. I appreciate it. Like, we're good. Now Times Square is a little funny because it does seem more like a tourist attraction, almost like a Disney
Hmm.
World, than it does like an actual downtown. You know what I mean? Like you're not in like downtown Detroit or like St. Louis or something like that, like waiting to get picked off. Like there are a lot of people moving. It's just
Yeah.
huge crowds, all tourists mainly, but then you've got little pockets of, guys hanging out who,
I bet you couldn't find one single shirt that said "I love New York."
I bought
Not
two,
one
just
hat,
so
not
you
one
know.
shirt anywhere. Every store has them.
Yeah. But the truth is you do not wear it there. You
Oh
cannot
no.
don't wear it there. Never wear your vacation shirt on vacation because that means
Uh,
someone's like tourist, tourist, tourist,
yeah.
tourist. And so I got a couple, but we got some for like my niece and nephew, but just to take home and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, so we get through that. That was kind of exciting. Get back to the hotel. Everything's good. And then the next day, I told her I wanted to go to the top of the Empire State Building, which is, if you're going to New York, it's one of the things you check off. But one of the reasons I wanted to go is because after I got shot, I suddenly developed this fear of heights to
Hmm.
the point where I would walk up to a building and just looking up would spook me. I'd get the wobblies, like
Yeah.
this weird feeling like your skin's crawling, your legs are weak, and like your equilibrium's all off.
Yeah, we talked about
And
this. We wonder if there's some connection to that with like TBIs and stuff,
yeah,
where you just the sensories just don't like what I don't know. You know how you have a level when you're in carpentry, you're gonna level a picture and it's got the little bubble that goes along the thing,
yeah,
so you know your level. Well, I just imagine our equilibrium being something like that, like something in there keeps it straight, and then when it gets rattled, those bubbles get separated. We got to get them all back together again so we can see the levelness. I guess I don't know.
no, I like that. Or it gets tilted. So
Because we're
you're
the
always
same way.
like,
Because I was the same way.
you
We had the story before. Like I can't even get on my roof to clean the gutters, or I
yeah,
haven't been for a while. But I haven't tried yet this year. But I feel more comfortable even thinking about it right now. But
yeah.
yeah, I
And
bet.
so
Yeah.
So this is like an update to that. And hey, if you're enjoying this conversation, do us a favor, hit that like button and make sure you're subscribed to the channel. It really helps us get the stories of resilience out to more people who might need them. And if you want to stay connected, turn on the bell so you don't miss the next episode. All right, let's get back to it. So what I did, probably, I think 5 years after being shot, I was in London with Kate, and I went to the top of the Shard, which is the tallest building in London. We talked
Okay.
about this before. It's glass on the top. When I first got off the elevator, I could barely move when I first got up there.
Ooh.
Because it was like total exposure, wobbly, all that kind of stuff.
Touch
I wanted to crawl. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it gets to that point because everything around you is glass. You don't see like it's called the Shard. It's shards of glass at the top,
Yeah.
And so
Is the floor glass too?
no, it's like turf almost because it's exposed to the outside. There's no roof, so you're looking straight up into the sky.
Okay.
So it's really neat, but it's super tempting if you're afraid of heights to just get off the elevator, circle around the elevator shaft to the other side where it goes down and just be like, I did it, and then go down. But but in that case, I was able to kind of like make myself work towards the glass, got closer, eventually was touching the glass, hanging on the glass, joking with Kate. Eventually I was able to use the bathroom, which I didn't know had a full, floor to ceiling glass window right next to the urinal, which I peed right next to and was able to. And that was pretty crazy. But I was worried that since that time, maybe that fear has come back. You know what I mean? Sometimes if you don't do something for a while or face a fear, sometimes it can grow. And so I was like, let's just do it. And I was thinking about it when I was sitting in the airport on the way there, and a funny thought came to me. I go, doesn't the plane go higher than the fucking building? And I was like, yeah, but you're not like hanging on the glass, so
Right.
so
And
that was
you're in the can, exposed in the can, and you don't really look out. And
yeah, but I felt like God was like, you got this. Like,
yeah.
quick, you know what I mean? Quit overthinking this. You're in a
Right.
plane. You're just going to go to a freaking building. So went to the building, with Kate. I was able to get up there. I didn't have one wobbly feeling. And I kept saying it to Kate. I'm like, I'm fine. Like, I'm actually fine. And so, the classic picture at the Empire State Building is those eyeglass things, the metal things. You're like looking through it. I was able to do all those. And then we got the pass to go to the higher story, which is just like a cylinder, and all the walls are glass floor to ceiling. And I was able to hang out in there really I was okay. Like, I think I sent you a picture of me just like
Yeah,
on the glass,
you're leaning against the glass, like you're looking down, like Ferris Bueller does in the
Yeah,
Chicago building in the movie.
we were just joking around. And it really kind of like, it it made me super grateful that although things can be scary, by facing them, there can be some relief. And it's hard to do, but once you do it, you realize that these sensors in your brain that are going off screaming danger, 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 maybe they're misfiring. Maybe it's not just pertaining to heights. Maybe it's other stuff too. And it just kind of got me thinking, about all this. Now, let me finish the story really quick. We, on Sunday, we were trying to fly back. Our flight was at 8 p.m. But it was raining in New York, and we're like, let's try to get on an earlier flight. So we got to the airport around like 1:00. It was crazy. We got on a 2:00 flight. We get on the flight. We get all the way out to the runway. And then the pilot comes over and he's like, hey guys, sorry to tell you this, but I've just timed out and I have to return to the gate because I'm no longer legal to fly by FAA standards. And in my head, I'm like, this is the dumbest problem. You know what I mean? Like you didn't plan for this. And
what was he hoping you get up in the air fast enough and be, oh, too late, I'm already flying, I get the overtime.
And is that safe? So it's like, who's making the plan here? So, there's kind of some frustration with that. And if you've ever sat on a runway or right there on the tarmac for an hour and then they tell you you're returning to the gate, you can get a little, tensions can kind of rise and all that kind of stuff. And we get back and it turns out a whole bunch of Delta flights have been canceled. And they're telling us it has to do with weather. It's not raining in New York at the time anymore. It's sunshine outside. And then I checked the weather in Atlanta and it was absolutely fine too. And they're just canceling flights.
Hmm.
And I ended up talking to one of the people at the airport and I was like, what is going on with this? Like everything's getting delayed, everything's canceled. What's up? And the guy goes, they've been doing this for 2 months. And I go, what's that? He goes, the pilots don't want to fly. So this is what's happening on a consistent basis with Delta pilots. They're just deciding last minute that they're not going to fly and they don't have a reserve on standby to cover all these spots. So it
Is
almost
it kind
seemed
of
like
like,
a soft strike kind of deal.
yeah, I say like this union kind of things or hours or wages that they're kind of fighting back a little bit, pushing a little bit, like
And the
don't,
airline in the
we can push it
meantime,
harder if we want to.
right. And in the meantime, like people are fired up because everyone's flights are getting screwed up and
Yeah.
they're blaming it on weather. And people know what I know now. Like they're starting to figure it out.
Yeah.
And if you've ever seen like that one desk attendant who's handling a line of 200 people who are just super pissed, you know what I mean? Because some of them have flown in from like out of the country. They're looking to make a connection, you know, like all this kinds of stuff. Everyone's furious, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so all the flights to Atlanta, which leave on the hour, are getting either canceled or delayed. So now our flight comes around at 8 o'clock. And we've also got the stress of, okay, where are our bags?
Oh goodness.
Let me rewind really quick. So when I flew, I had all carry on. One of the things that's really important that I have to have on me is my medicine. You know, I've got my medicine tray and I've got, you know, all that kind of stuff. So I usually have that in my carry on. I didn't know it, but typically, I guess when you get to group 5+ on those boarding groups, they're now like pretty much like anyone who has a bag that rolls
Yeah.
behind them, we're checking your bag.
Yeah.
And I'm like, cool, because it used to be when you check your bag at the gate and you did that, you'd get your bag back on the jetway or
No,
whatever you
they're
call
putting it
it.
under they're putting underneath probably. Well,
Well, they
sometimes.
they used to put him underneath, but then they used to bring him back up the stairs and meet you when you got off the
Okay.
plane. They would like tag him and they'd be sitting right there and you just grab yours as you walk by. Now they check them all the way through. So you would receive it at baggage claim.
Right. I say
So
I've had that happen a couple of times too, and that would be a nightmare if you had to have your medicine right there and it's taken away from you.
so the first time I was getting on the plane, they took my Rolly one. I'm getting on the plane. I'm like, I'm good. You know what I mean? So I give them the Rolly one that has my meds in it. And then the plane now comes back. And I'm like, shoot, where are my meds? That's my main
Yeah.
concern, right? But I'm like, oh, we'll get that 8 o'clock flight. Okay, so we'll get now we're ready to get to the 8 o'clock flight, and it gets delayed over and over and over
And they
until they're
sell your
like,
bag.
and they still have my bag. It's now midnight, and they are telling us that they have a pilot because they can't find a pilot. They're actually telling us now we don't have a pilot. We're trying to find one. They then get on the PA and they tell us we found a pilot, but he's in Atlanta. He's going to have to fly here and then make the decision whether he's going to fly back or not. If this flight doesn't go, the delay will be until Tuesday.
Oh goodness.
So I'm like, oh no. The flight gets delayed all the way till 2 o'clock, 2 a.m. And the pilot shows up. He says he's good to go, and we take off. Okay. We arrive in Atlanta, I think around like 4 a.m. We are tired. We are fussy, if you will.
Cranky.
And if you've ever traveled with your closest companion, you're trying to like help them, but at the same time not freak out on your own. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I'm also past my meds. I'm past when I should have taken my meds. And I can't take my meds till I get home because they will highly sedate me and put me to sleep. But I've got to drive home because Kate literally has to work at 8 a.m, you
Yeah.
know? Um, and then the bags, they took forever to come out. Meanwhile, I'm worrying, so I'm probably being hyper vigilant, all that kind of stuff. And then we get the bags again. were, I'm not going to say one or the other was fussy. I think we both were, but you start kind of collapsing in on one another.
Yeah.
and, and, I get the bags. I'm like, come on, honey, we can do this. Let's get to the car. I know where I parked and all this kinds of stuff. And in that moment, she tried to take control. She's like, no, you parked over here. I'm like, no, I parked over here. And, kind of had this whole thing. And I was, questioned all the way to the car. I'm like, here's the car, like all this kinds of stuff. And in that moment, when I got in the car and I thought like the journey was kind of over, I lost it. Like I absolutely lost it. I was like, I lost it. I just lost it. And I collapsed in on Kate, and it was probably not the best thing. She was
Oh
collapsing
no.
in on me too. So we're sort of attacking one another. And then, you get to the gate, you're trying to pay for parking, but it's 5 a.m. There's no attendant. It's not taking, this card for whatever reason. So we're like fussing with that.
One
I
after
can't
another,
get the,
one thing after
I
another.
can't, and when you come out of the parking at Atlanta, it almost immediately puts you on the highway. And I hadn't put the directions in yet or plugged my phone in because it's not, I plugged my phone into my Google Maps and all that kind of stuff. And I can't get it. It's dark. I'm screaming, help me, all this kinds of stuff. And then she's saying something. Now I'm screaming like, shut up, and like all this kinds of stuff. And I'm just like, I'm off the Richter scale. And we just drive home pretty much in silence, get her home and all that kind of stuff. And I've had a little bit to kind of like think about it. And, those are stressful situations. I didn't have my meds. But I think part of it too was that the things I had been doing those past couple days were a bit stressful. And you're kind of like, you want to believe that you can handle it and it's not a problem and like all this kinds of stuff. But I think I was basically just like setting that stress aside and kind of being like, I can take it, I can take it, I can take it, I can take it.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, whoo-ah, because my medicine also, the medicine that I take at night, if any of my medicines, they're the ones that make me less aggressive.
Yeah.
So I am like, my true feeling was when I was in New York, I was like, don't do something stupid and get kicked out of this airport because you want to make a point that it's not the weather and it's actually the pilots. Like
Right.
it's not worth it. Like
Pick your battles. Pick your battles.
yeah, or shut your
Not,
mouth. It's
it's
not,
not. It's not your. It's not your
it's not.
fight to have. It's not
I
your place
know,
to stir up things. It's not what benefit's going to come out of it. You got to say,
but
"Yay, I'm right. I know more than you." That's about the
I,
only benefit you got out of it. And what's that going to help anybody? Nobody.
and we've all seen those videos.
Oh yeah.
We've all seen those videos where you can tell that the person isn't mad at the person across from them on the desk. They're
Yeah.
mad at the situation. They're mad that their plans have been disrupted. They're mad that, their story isn't going to go as they planned, just like I've been and I probably was being. It's like being an adult brat. It's like being a Karen or a Kevin and just being like, this isn't right, and
Well, that was a Chad.
it might be a
I
chat. I
like
don't know.
Chad. I don't. I don't know. I guess Kevin works
Either,
too, but I know too many Kevins that aren't bad
that's
people at
true. That's
all.
true. We just had a great Kevin on. Had a great Kevin on.
Yeah. We worked with the
Um,
great Kevin.
yeah, yeah, yeah. He
Yeah.
still works there.
Yeah.
Um,
But I don't know very many Chads. I got a couple Chads that are good too, but I don't know. The Chads just
it's
sounds better to me. I don't know. Like the hat
I know
on backwards
Karens.
with the weird
uh,
tattoo and the I don't know.
People with the name Karen are getting a bad rap. What it should be is
Everybody is.
an adult brat. You're
Sure.
being an adult
That way, no
brat.
name can be assaulted. Nobody with any names can feel slighted or anything like that.
Yeah, and
Well, no, screw it. My name's Dennis. I grew up with Dennis the Menace. Forget it. Karen, you're stuck with it. It's the way it is.
yeah. Well,
Nobody
yeah.
cared to change Dennis the Menace for me.
I know Karens. I grew up with a couple Karens. I know that they seem like okay people. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what happens. I think we all turn
I
into
had a
kind of
mother-in-law named
brats.
Karen. She was a sweetheart.
Yeah.
She was a total sweetheart, actually. Yeah.
Well, good,
Uh,
good. I wanted to share that story because, man,
Bland
like
Karens. Sorry.
you you think you're handling a situation and like it's not stressing you, but I think what I was doing is I was taking the stress and kind of putting it in my
Yeah.
cup. and just being like,
Yeah.
I can hold this, I can hold this, I can hold this, I can hold this, until it got so heavy, it was hurting my hand so bad that I had to, let it go and curse the situation and all that kind of stuff. I didn't have to. That's what I did. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, and you're human. The good
yeah,
news is you're not the only couple to ever have imploded on each other and still survived and had happy relationships.
yeah,
Stress does get the best of us sometimes. You had the
yeah,
awareness going into a situation to stretch out your longevity of putting up with the BS a little bit longer than you probably would have thought you would have been able to a couple weeks ago.
yeah. And
Um,
you asked me right away. You said, "Are you being punished or are you being refined?"
right.
Or is there a silver lining? I can't. No, I think you actually said, "I can't wait to hear the silver lining that you made out of it." And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh,
Because
and I
I want to add that to the silversmith analogy from now on.
yeah, the silver
Which
lining.
by the way is historically accurate for anybody listening. If you're a silversmith now currently and you don't think that that's how it works, you probably have new stuff to do your silversmithing with. But historically accuracy to the time that they called out in Micaiah 3:3 or whatever it was, Timothy whatever it was, I forget what verse it was, where they said God was just like a silversmith, and the ladies tried to figure out what that was, and that's how the story all came about. It actually is historically accurate, just so you know.
Yeah, and yeah. And what's funny is like, w- even if it weren't accurate, it's an analogy.
Yeah, and it
It
still serves a great purpose. And I love
yeah,
that too because now we get to say, look for the silver lining. I feel like that has to be connected somehow too.
yeah.
Like
I got
saying, like like God is a silversmith. He's putting you in the fire to refine you and clarify you. And so that's why when you feel like you're having a bad day and you think it's the devil keeping you down, maybe just maybe it's God trying to refine you. So you should look for that silver lining from the silversmith for
yeah.
what is happening. What am I supposed to be learning from this? What's the good part about all of this? All that kind of stuff. And that's not easy to do. I can tell you firsthand, it's not easy to do. You can too. I'm sure
Yeah.
there's people listening that could say it's not easy to do, but it's
And
true.
that, so, yeah. And I've been thinking on it. I mean, it is an opportunity to grow.
Yeah.
And, sometimes it feels like, you've got the devil on one shoulder and you've got the
Hmm.
angel on the other, right? And in perfect timing, I saw, I think, like a YouTube short or something online, and it was talking about a guy who was having a dream. He's having a dream and he finds himself in a field, a
Yeah.
field with no ending, right?
Okay.
In the middle of it is a fence. And
On the other
he
side of the fence is a
notices
bull. No, I'm just kidding.
no, he noticed so then he sees that on one side of the fence is God with the angels, and on the other side of the fence is the devil or Satan with his demons, right?
Okay.
And the devil is saying, "Hey, you should come to my side of the fence. I will give you everything you possibly could desire. I'm going to give you fame. I'm going to give you money. I'm going to give you all the earthly pleasures I can possibly give you."
Yeah.
He looks over at God and he knows God is good and he knows God is right. But he still likes those things on the other side of the
The
fence.
temptation is real.
So he sits on the fence and he actually starts laughing. And the devil says, "What are you laughing about?" He goes, "I figured it out. I'm going to sit here right on the fence. I'm going to have me some God. I'm going to have me some, earthly pleasures when I want them. And I'll just sit here on the fence. Thanks for making the decision easy." Suddenly, all the lights go out. Boom. The devil comes out of the darkness and red flames around him. And the guy goes, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa. I didn't pick you. I didn't go all the way on with God, but I definitely didn't pick you." And then the devil says, "The fence belongs to me."
Yeah.
And I was like,
Oh, that's
oh
good.
man, you can't be living in both worlds.
No, you can't. And I've been struggling with that one myself the last few months, thinking about that exact same story because I remember being a young kid in Bible school going, "Oh, great. All I gotta do, I can have as much fun as I want. And then right before I die, I can just say, I believe in you. Forgive me. And then I'll go to heaven, right?
Yeah.
Well, that can't be right.
Does
That's
this
a good
mean we're
one.
growing spiritually?
Probably. Probably.
Yeah.
I
It's
heard
like the
another good one
biggest
too.
curse. Yeah.
Well, it is. Well, it's a curse and a blessing.
Oh, it's
I
the
heard
biggest
one that,
blessing for sure.
yeah, yeah. I heard one that said, "Life isn't fair." Life isn't fair. Well, you're darn right it's not fair, and it's a good thing it's not fair because if it was fair, we would all end up on that cross dying.
Mm, that's really good. That's really good. I've been not struggling, but thinking about that too. Um, the idea that that's real, that my sin was forgiven. And I think it got complicated for me because I'm like, how is it that my sin now was covered by something back then? Didn't make a lot of sense to me. And I thought every time I made a bad decision or sinned, it actually kind of removed that cleanliness from me. But I learned recently that sin isn't the accumulation of the things we do. Sin was actually inherited
Hmm.
and it's part of us and it was not a choice.
Yeah,
And that's kind of a
it goes back to the
weird
apple.
yeah, it's a weird concept because then you go back to the apple and you're like, we're really two people in a garden and they ate an apple and now God like
Well,
basically
again,
cursed them. And
parables are all throughout the Bible too. You can take maybe it's literal, maybe it's not. I believe it's all kind of parables. Was Jonah really actually in a whale, or was he in a whale of a problem? I mean, you can debate that all you want to. It doesn't. I mean, I don't even want to have the debate. It is what it is. It's a
right,
lesson for you to learn and to live by. And if you do it, then you're living on the right side with God. Then you're doing that. If you're not, then you're not. If you have doubts, you have doubts. But your faith is entirely up to you, and it's none of my business what your faith is or how it is. Not really anybody else's uh,
right.
uh, uh you know place to know my faith. They're not my judge.
Well, I
I'm
started
not here
going
to
down
judge. I'm not here to judge. I'm here to love.
no, I know. And you know, and so I started digging a little bit into the
Okay,
idea of like, am I really cursed because someone ate an apple kind of deal? Really doing like the devil's advocate kind of thing.
sure.
And so because I learned, sin is inherited, it's inherited from, Eve eating the apple as far as the Bible goes and all that
Yeah,
kind of
all
stuff. So I
mankind,
started,
all of our parents. Yeah.
yeah. So I started kind of digging into that, the idea that sin is inherited. And
Well, Jesus is the Lamb of God. So we used to get the forgiveness of our sins and cleanse our sins by having sacrifices, blood sacrifices, sheep and lamb on the altar, asking for forgiveness. That's old school Leviticus Jewish type stuff, old school. But the
n-
Messiah came. That was Jesus. He became the Lamb of God. He cleansed us of our sins. He was the last sacrifice that we needed to make. Now all we have to do is believe in Him that He was here for our sins, and we don't have to sacrifice lambs and sheep anymore.
well, I saw an interesting take on it.
Loosely.
And, and, and it was that when that happened, when they were tempted and then the apple was eaten, it could in this situation, they were discussing how it's identifying when shame first was introduced to mankind.
Okay.
And prior to that moment, God had made man and woman perfect, like absolutely perfect, to the point where they were never really, it was never thought of that they were going to do anything that they would be shameful about. They were fearfully and powerfully made, right?
Yeah, we still are.
But yeah. And it
The
turns out that
world.
the devil isn't as much a tempter as he is an accuser. An accuser, someone would say, you're not worthy.
Hmm.
You should feel shame. You should do all these things. And since we weren't built actually with the capacity to carry shame, that's why it hurts us so much while we're here.
Oh wow.
The devil found sort of like a loophole. He's not, all he can do is make you turn away. He
Yeah.
can't actually stop you, on your pursuit. But along the way, you're going to
No,
hear
he has
things
no
just like,
power over you, but he'll put you in situations where you feel like he has power over you.
oh, yeah.
This
Oh,
is
yeah.
why this is why your mental game has to be strong. Whether you're religious or not, your mental game needs to be strong because you're built this way. Our bodies are. Everybody talks about it. Psychologists, all of them, they talk about it. If you listen to how they explain things with these problems, it is step by step ABCs along with the Bible and our beliefs and stuff like that we're supposed to have too. Yeah. The power of your mind. You can literally speak things into existence. I believe that wholeheartedly. I've said that several times on here. I've had some examples on recent trips with like the story with my niece at the lake, speaking things into existence. You can do these things.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're born with the power and authority. You just got to remember that and don't let the ways of the world, the wickedness of the world, or the devil or anybody else tell you that you should be ashamed of your body size or your, whatever clothing you wear, skin color, religious beliefs. You should feel ashamed. You should alter your behavior because of
Yep.
this, and then that just takes away your power and authority. Why
Because
would you
what's
let anybody
great,
have that power and authority over you?
yeah. And I've talked about it on here before, but something happened to me at a young age where I felt a lot of shame, and I still do
Yeah.
sometimes because of kind of like the fallout of a sexual assault that, my friend and me and an adult, right? And that's hard to get over when you actually accepted that as a little kid and you're like, I
It's
am,
probably still going to be hard to get over.
it is. And I talk about it with my therapist still all the time. And I don't know
Right.
why it bothers me all the time. But I
You have no
recently,
control over it. You were in a weakness back then, and you became a strong man, a cop, and all that kind of stuff. You would never allow that to happen to you now, type of
right.
thing. So you're kind of retroactively trying to defend yourself back then. But that's the part
And
you
it,
got to let go. You got to set that glass down because you can't change it. You can't change the
well,
past because it already happened.
well, I'm starting to recognize that, the devil is definitely at play during that.
Well,
And the way
sure.
you would take out a little boy is you would tell him that, his parents don't love him, God won't love him, and that, you're a sinner forever and always, and
And
you're
look how
going to have to
close you
earn.
got to working. Look how close you got to succeeding.
Right.
You carry that
And
shame all the way through to your coma.
and so I thought, like, everyone would talk about this idea of like shame and blah blah blah. Anyways, when you're going through it, you don't think it applies to you. You know what I mean? Like, until you believe that God loves you, people can tell you a million times, and if you don't believe it, you don't believe it, right?
Yeah.
It's basically like a shift in your perception. And so, like, along these lines, a lot of times people say, like, why do bad things happen to people then? If God is good, why do
Right.
bad things happen to people? And I caught an interview. Actually, it was a guy giving a conference. He's a former military, something like that. But he shares his testimony, and I'll make sure I get the name and put it up here at some point. But this was a kid who was born to an abusive dad. I don't think mom was in the picture. Abusive to the point that he would get his son naked and let other men sexually assault him in front of him. Okay. This happens forever, his whole life growing up. And his dad would hold a gun to his head and be like, I will fucking kill you if anyone finds out about this. Right. He was
It's
asked the
horrible.
question, why do bad things happen? I think he was on Joe Rogan when it was asked.
Hmm.
And he said something that I thought very deep. And he thought it was one of the most important questions that he could be asked. And he
This is
said,
the dad or the kid?
this is a kid.
Kid all grown up
Uh,
confronting them. Okay. Making sure I was
kid,
clear.
kid, all grown up, grown man now.
Right.
Okay. Um, he actually went on to, prior to giving the speech, forgiving his father and actually leading his father to Christ and helping him in that way. But when he gets asked the question, if God exists, why do bad things happen? And he actually said, God uh, will send some of us to the gates of hell because he knows we can turn back and we can save the others around us and bring them back as well.
Oh, wow.
To me, that sounds like being like special operations. That sounds like being a knight. That sounds like being the tip of the spear. You get picked because he knows he's made you to handle that situation. And not only that, grab others around you and bring them back.
And he can only have that perspective because he did find love in his heart and forgiveness, being able to forgive his father, and he was able to do that with Jesus.
Yeah. Now he
Um,
tracks down kids who have been uh, trafficked. He helps kids who have
yeah,
been trafficked. So he goes into these terrible places. He finds where these kids are. A lot of us aren't aware of it, but there's children being sold all over the world still. And there's scenarios where, Tim Tebow was talking about his father was a pastor. And if anyone doesn't know who Tim Tebow is, he was a quarterback for Florida and he went on to play in the NFL, but he's really into philanthropy and he's working in the anti-trafficking world and all that kind of stuff. And he's saying that it's happening actually within our communities. It's people you trust who
yeah,
are actually you like abusing this and all that kind of stuff. And he said that his father, I can't remember what country he went to, but he went to the country. He was brought into a room with the elders because the country that he went to did not allow Christians to practice openly. So he was meeting with these pastors almost underground. And even in that meeting, 4 little girls were brought in and they were being sold. So Tim Tebow's dad bought those kids on the spot with the only money he had on him, which was like $1,200, which was supposed to sustain him through his entire trip, was supposed to buy dinners, was supposed to do all these things, and literally bought the freedom of 4 little kids in modern day world. Now, he wasn't in the United States when this happened. I'm not sure what country he was in, but it is happening. And people, who have been through dark things are able to go to dark places and
yeah.
grab people out of it. And sir, I
And that is
feel
an
like,
amazing answer. That is
yeah,
an amazing
that,
answer, and somebody who's been through that, giving that answer gives it so much more legitimacy than I think I could. I know I've been through some trials too, but I don't think I could say I rate in that category. But
and and it gives confidence to people who are out there feeling like I've been forgotten,
yeah,
like all this kinds of stuff. Like it sucks the way life works sometimes because we don't know how it's going to end up. But this guy was talking to thousands of people and openly sharing how this happened to him as a little kid. And because of it, he became the man that he is now. And not because he cursed it, but he knew that it wasn't right and he was going to stop it happening from other people.
yeah,
And that's just heroic, and it gives confidence to someone who's going through pain right now, who doesn't believe there's any purpose in it. There is. It may not be as substantial as standing in front of thousands of people and sharing your testimony, but you could help somebody at a freaking just by passing
absolutely.
them at a gas station and just being kind. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Kevin, the last episode, was talking about how he went to an AA meeting and nobody knew it, but he was actually evaluating during the meeting whether he was going to take his own life.
Well,
And
I need to watch all of that one. I haven't watched it all yet.
he even said it in the meeting. I'm considering taking my own life. That's how bad it is right now. And he said that no one came up to him afterwards and said, I hope you're doing all right. I'm going to pray for you or something like that. Everyone just kind of went on their own way, which I understand. People in AA meeting are there for their own problem and all that kind of stuff. But it is alarming that sometimes someone can just be walking by you in a terrible, terrible place. And just based on the way you interact with them, it can make a
Hmm.
positive or a negative impact, which could drive them down that alley or whatever it is. So,
Silver linings.
man, that really makes me like realize I got to stop stomping around. Like, you know,
Yeah.
it's tough. I'll be like open for, a couple days. How is everyone doing? Blah, 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 blah. And then I'll sort of like withdraw, like,
Well, I mean, you're flexing a spiritual muscle, and like with all muscles, it only gets stronger with more use. But you can overuse it, and you can overexert it, and it can feel like a day of where I just need to. I'm that same way. You got back from that trip, and I had a couple spiritual moments with different people that we ran into. Even will be a glove and say something and talk about the podcast or talk about the silversmith thing, and get some people's eyes to kind of go, and so I like think and stuff, and it feels good because you can feel like the love pouring. You can feel the authenticity frequency come up because you get the goosebumps when you're talking to them and all that, and so it feels great. And man, I almost want to chase it like a drug.
yeah.
Like I want that feeling all the time, but I don't know that that's necessarily healthy either. So I go, Monday we got back, and I have a lot of things to do this week that I've got most of them accomplished now. But Monday, I go, I'm not going to do anything. I'm just gonna sit here and watch some TV or play some video games, and maybe I'll do some cleaning up around here, get some clothes repacked for the next vacation because we're doing another one next week with my father-in-law on that side,
Oh yeah.
and a different lake. But anyway, yeah, just recharge your batteries a little bit. Now, when I'm doing that, I should probably be meditating a little bit for myself. I should probably be maybe stretching a little bit because I'm sore as heck from that wave runner. My ribs, I think, are bruised. It really affected my golf swing at Tuesday League.
Oh yeah.
The AC went on the truck again. The 4-wheel drive stuck into 4-wheel drive, and there's something wrong with the where it shifts. That all happened while I was looking at another car. So I was like, and the car was like a little bit bigger than I was wanting. I got the 2500 instead of the 1500 truck, and it's diesel, but it's gonna last really long if we take care of it. And it was kind of the dream to get one of those in about 10 years anyway, so we can maybe do an RV with a gooseneck. And this truck has the hookup for it already. Anyway, things just kind of lined up and felt like,
Nice.
let's just do this. I mean, did I get the best deal ever? Probably not. You almost never do because they have to make money. But I got a pretty good deal.
Hmm.
I'm very happy with it. And the what $2,000 or $3,000 I could have made difference if I had sold the car myself. I think that would have been a headache because I would have had to fix the AC. I would have had to fix the transfer casing. I would have had to, the paint on the roof is starting to fade a little bit. We just replaced the roof. Buddy did that for us because we let him borrow the car a few months back when they had a problem. So he's to return. He went to his cousin with a body shop and got a new hood for it. So that just helped the trade-in value a little bit. But it's like, okay, so I do all those things. I'm gonna spend probably $8,000 just to make this, $15,000 car be able to be sold for 22 or 23. And even then, I probably have to go down to 20 just to sell it to somebody. Now I'm only like making a $2,000 difference than just doing the trade in. I
Right.
just do the trade in. Just do the trade. I just did it. Convenience. Got a nice new truck. I'm happy with it. But so, like I said, it just seemed like the timing was right. And we went through it. And turns
And
out
man, was
one of the guys there, not the salesman. The salesman was a young guy. He was a nice guy. There was some cute stories there with him. But the finance guy at the end, he had a tattoo on his forearm, and it was of 3 crosses, a big cross and 2 crosses on the side and a circle. And I think the circle was like a circle of thorns, kind of like the crown of thorns. And I looked at it, I was like, I like that tattoo. And he said, thanks. And, just a little bit of sharing of faith. And I could tell that he's still up on it. It's not like an old tattoo. He's not really still going to church. He is. I told him about the podcast a little bit. And just to listen to it sometime, just two guys being foolish, talking about guys and talking about guy problems and getting those thoughts in our heads out so they don't just sit there and bounce around and cause damage. I went back today to take the title back, and for some reason we talked about how he was, his son, 25-year-old son, was kind of in it right now, and did the whole control what you can control kind of speech, and gave him the silversmith one, and talked about how those ideas just bounce around our heads and how we can be our own worst enemies. We will criticize ourselves and say things to us, ugly things to ourselves that we wouldn't say to anybody else. And it's so crazy. And all of a sudden his eyes came like, man, I could really use that device right now. Like, you're right. We do. I do say things to myself that I would never say to another person. And I go, yeah. And you got to find a support buddy system, something you can get that out. Just verbalize it so you can realize how, I don't know, silly it really sounds once you say it out loud. And that's the thoughts that have been bouncing around your head and causing you so much turmoil. And, but I could tell it kind of hit a chord with them. And we, said, hey, it was really nice to meet you. I said, it was really nice to meet you too. We shook each other's hands. I don't know. I didn't tell him the silver lining ending to the silversmith story, but that's going to be added to it from now on because I feel like it's connected. I don't know if it's supposed to be or not, but I feel like you're going through a hard time. Maybe it's the silversmith refining a little bit. So look for this silver lining in the story. Try to stay positive. But maybe we'll have a new
yeah.
fan, and maybe he'll even get on and talk about some. He said he has some good stories with his brother or something. I said, reach out to the information you can find on all those sites, and we'll get you on there. So I know
Yeah.
you're in charge of the emails. You got to watch for that.
Yes, yes. Our email now is shitcreeksurvivorspodcast@gmail.com. That
Okay.
is where any information, any requests to be on, any suggestions for anybody to be on, that's where that's going to be. So that's the website, shitcreeksurvivors.com, is also live. I'm going to put all this in another part, but
Good. Yeah, yeah. I know it's been there. I've put it on a couple emails and then I realized it wasn't live yet. I'm like, take that off that email just in case somebody clicks on it.
yeah, I've got the new shirt on. I'm gonna
Yeah, no, I
got you
like it.
got you some.
You had
You're
that you
gonna
had that
get
in New York too, I saw in the pictures. You're sporting it around
yeah.
there.
I figured put it out there, let people
Yeah.
see it. Uh, Maybe someone looked it up, but people are grabbing on to the podcast. I mean, especially it just seems like a lot of good energy coming our way, saying people literally saying, I love what you're doing, like this needs to be happening, why isn't this happening more, kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
I'm just like,
It's hard to really hate what we're doing here. I mean, we're just trying to be good buddies to each other, and we're just decided to film it, see if somebody else gets some use out of it. I don't know how you can really hate on that. I mean, we're not we're not doing anything really that controversial. We're just like we said
no.
from the get-go, we're just two dumb guys that are just talking about two dumb guy problems and how we get through them and what we've heard things about that can help us get through them or what cool little meme we saw that can help us get through situations. And
Yeah.
somebody
And for
grabs onto one of that and becomes a tool for their toolbox, then that's just another win, just a layer of wins.
yeah, and we get to have a therapy session almost every time
It
you and
really
I
kind of
talk.
did.
And then we get to talk to these amazing people who are coming on and sharing their own stories. And it's
Yeah.
just amazing. We've had such a diversity of people,
How
everything
many guests
from
we had
drug.
now, you said?
We just released our 32nd episode. I'm not sure
Well,
how
they
many
haven't all had
guests.
guests.
They haven't all had guests, but we like having our little buddy time and our therapy session. So it's a good way to process kind of what's happened in between and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Uh, and kind of share the stories we're going through. Um, Besides that, buddy, you mentioned something earlier, and I thought it was really. We were saying like, for a couple days I'll be like in the spirit, and trying to find opportunities to do things like hold the door or just do these small little things,
Yeah.
just like in
A
some
head
way
nod, a smile.
right. And you called that almost like using a spiritual muscle. And
Yeah.
sometimes that muscle has to be rested, which makes a lot of sense.
Well, certainly until we get better at it and we get stronger at it, and we can go longer and longer with those spiritual journeys. I think that's a reasonable way to think about it or understand it.
Because I think the further I go into this walk into Christianity, the more I realize, words are one thing, but action is another.
Oh yeah.
But I find myself not doing all the actions I probably could be doing. And so then I get on myself about that. I'm like, does that mean like I'm not strong enough? So what I've been thinking that, and then you just said spiritual muscle. And that makes a lot of sense to me that if it's a muscle, you have to train it. You have to get it
Hmm.
stronger. You have to build it. And that comes with doing it. And muscles, if you ever like really get into it, it's the idea of basically you lift, you destroy your muscle, and then it builds back stronger. You destroy
Hmm.
your muscle, it builds back stronger. You know what I mean? You're constantly uh, growing, if you will. And I guess that kind of is along the
But you
same
also need the
lines of
nourishment to grow that muscle. You can't,
yeah.
not eat anything beneficial while you're destroying those muscles to rebuild them. If you're not eating the proteins, it's not going to build up very strong. You're just going to kind of spin your wheels there a little bit, maybe injure yourself. And
Yeah.
so
I
you
gotta
got
be
to feed
looking at
yourself too. You got to feed your spirits too. And I feel like these conversations are feeding my spirit a lot of times, just because we talk in that mentality. We talk in that place, if you will. We are we're in the gym. We're in the gym stretching out those spiritual muscles and spotting each other and getting a little training right now. I mean, this is what this is to me anyway.
it
But
also
we need to
it
feed it.
also
We need to feed it other ways, probably. I know I need to pick up the Bible more and study more, because especially if I'm gonna keep talking this stuff, I need to know that I'm saying something that's kind of founded in what's actually in the Bible, not just something I remember reading when I was 12.
yeah, I'm getting that
But
same itch on my
yeah,
side that
yeah,
I
it'd
need
be the
to.
smart thing to do. But in the meantime, I'm just gonna keep trying to stay in the position of love and giving love, and it's not my place to judge anybody. It's just my place to try to love everybody, your journey is your journey, journey's mine.
We're going through a process of learning and growing, and we're actually sharing it. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And so with the spiritual muscle, again, with that analogy, it also makes me think that, in order to grow spiritually, if I really think about it, I think there's a lot of times where I'm like with Christianity, where I'm like, I get to a step and I'm like, I got it. I figured it out.
Yeah.
like I'm going to do the right thing. And you almost don't want that to go away. But in order to grow to the next step, you have to understand there's more.
Yeah.
So you have to go to the next step instead of just clamping down and being like, I've done it. I put the money in the plate. I went to church on Sunday. I'm doing my best. Done. Compared to
Just
like when
another
you,
degree of that perspective, Paul. The ball of perspective is just another degree angle looking at it from another direction. And yeah, you can't just stay in that one's position. You got to remember where you saw it from that angle, and you got to keep looking at angles you haven't even seen yet or thought of yet.
I know we've been going on a little bit, but something you said to me recently, which I really appreciate, was sometimes the successful guy, something to the effect of like, sometimes the successful guy is the one who didn't even know he wasn't even supposed to try.
Yeah.
You said that
You,
to me
you,
the other day.
Yeah, there I was some quote from uh, uh, any one of the people that I follow and share their information about. It was like sometimes success is gained by the person who didn't know they weren't supposed to even try. They're too dumb,
Yeah.
either too dumb to know, or nobody told them they weren't supposed to try, and then all of a sudden they're doing something that everybody that knows more about it than they do, or supposedly, are scoffing at the idea that this guy is trying it, and then all of a sudden they'll break through and get it because they didn't know they weren't supposed to.
Right. I
You
really
can
like
limit
that.
yourself by that. You can limit yourself by that. Like, oh, I'm not even going to try because nobody's going to. Same thing with this. Like, we're not. I don't have no delusions of grandeur that we're going to make millions of dollars from this. But if we can reach one person, it's worth it.
And we have, so we're going to keep going.
Yeah.
That's all it is. We're just planting
Yeah.
little trees. You said it earlier, some of the best experiences are those one-on-one experiences where you can actually tell somebody something, you can see them receive it and like
Yeah.
go, oh, that makes sense. And then they
And
pour
if
something into you and then you're like,
yeah.
oh, that makes sense too. And then you're just like, it's an exchange, it's almost like you're pouring into each other's cups the whole time
Yeah,
compared to like comparing
and that
stories.
authenticity frequency hits too. You get the goosebumps. You know it. You know that they felt it. You know that they're hearing it. You know they're receiving it. You know they're digesting it. It makes you feel good to be the vessel that helps get that message to them. Like the
Yeah.
purpose is fulfilled now, for that moment. I was the glove for that moment, and the purpose was fulfilled. Um,
The quote that you gave me, it really made me think of another one, which Kate has when I first met her, she's got a little, not poster, but it's kind of like a thing that goes on the wall.
Mhm.
And it says, those who not hear the music think the dancer's mad.
Mhm.
And if you've ever kind of like
That's good.
had your headphones in and you're jamming out, like I'll be in my garage, I'll have my headphones on, that's where I work out, I'll be like singing songs and like all this kinds of stuff. And when you take the headphones out and you realize that all that noise was actually going on in your ear and you were living in it and actually feeling it, but the rest of the world was still operating on its own. It's like, oh, it's like those who don't hear the music. Because if you see someone dancing and you don't hear the music, you're like, this person's crazy.
Right.
Really, you just don't hear the music. So maybe you should
That's a
tune
good
into
one
the
too. I like
music.
that.
Yeah, I like it a
Or
lot.
just not judge the person that's dancing. They must be listening to a good song. God, I hope I get to hear that song someday because it looks like that guy that's full of joy.
Yeah.
Look for the silver
We're
lining.
we're growing, we're learning.
Absolutely,
Um,
brother.
And I love you for this journey. We will continue going. I can't believe it's about to be the completion. Today is the last day of the month. So that'll be 7 months
Yeah.
every week with clips.
Yeah.
Good
Building
stuff.
stuff up. Hey, congratulations to you on your trip to New York and facing some fears and pushing through and strengthening that social anxiety issue or muscle or whatever that you got to grow there.
Thank you for watching and hitting subscribe. We really appreciate it. We'll see you next week. Bye. God bless.